My uncle moved into my life after my dad died, then took my mom, my home, and my peace. Now, I'm picking up the pieces he shattered. I, 19M, never thought I would be writing something like this on Reddit, but I'm completely lost and don't know what to do anymore. My whole life has turned upside down in the last few months and I need to get this off my chest. My dad passed away 8 months ago in a horrible car accident. He was driving home from work when a drunk driver hit his car. He died on the spot. It was sudden and devastating for both me and my mom. Dad was our rock, the person who kept our small family together and made everything work. Dad worked as a construction supervisor for 20 years at the same company. He wasn't highly educated but he worked his way up from being a laborer to becoming a supervisor. Everyone respected him at work and his boss even came to our house after his death to tell us what a great employee and person he was. Dad made sure we had everything we needed. We weren't rich but we never felt like we were lacking anything. Mom was a stay-at-home parent who took care of everything at home. She and Dad had a great relationship. I never saw them fight or argue about anything serious. After Dad's death, Mom completely broke down. She wouldn't eat, wouldn't talk, and spent most of her time crying in their bedroom. She would hold Dad's clothes and just sit there for hours. It was scary to see her like that. I tried my best to help her. I cooked for her, made sure she took her medicines, and tried to get her to talk to me. I even deferred my college admission for a year to stay with her and make sure she was okay. My college counselor understood the situation and said I could join next year. Things started getting better after about 4 to 5 months. Mom started eating properly and even began going out for walks in the evening. She started talking more and would sometimes even smile when we watched TV together. I thought we were slowly healing and learning to live without Dad. That's when Uncle Nathan came into our lives and everything went to hell. Nathan is Dad's younger brother who was disowned by the family 10 years ago. I was 9 when it happened so I don't remember much, but I know it was because he got involved with drugs and gambling. He stole money from Grandpa and disappeared. Grandpa died 2 years later and Dad always said it was because of the stress Nathan caused him. Nathan showed up at our doorstep one random Tuesday evening. He said he had heard about Dad's death and wanted to pay his respects. He looked different from the photos I had seen. He was clean-shaven, well-dressed, and spoke very politely. He told us that he had changed and wanted to reconnect with the family. Mom was hesitant at first but she let him in. He sat with us and cried while talking about Dad. He said he regretted not making things right with Dad when he was alive. He told us that he had been clean for 5 years, had a stable job as a mechanic at a big garage, and wanted to make amends with the family. I didn't trust him from the start. Something about his story felt off. Dad had always said that Nathan was a smooth talker who could convince anyone of anything. But Mom started spending more time with him. She said it felt good to talk to someone who knew Dad from childhood. She said Nathan had so many stories about Dad that she had never heard before. Within a month, Nathan started coming to our house every day. He would bring food, saying Mom needed to eat better. He started helping Mom with household chores and even began fixing things around the house that needed repair. I noticed how Mom started changing. She began smiling more, started dressing up again, and seemed happier. She would laugh at Nathan's jokes and they would spend hours talking in the kitchen. I was glad to see her happy but something wasn't right. Nathan started acting like he owned our house. He would tell me to clean up my room, ask me why I wasn't in college yet, and criticize everything I did. If I left a glass in the sink, he would make a big deal about it. If I stayed up late watching TV, he would lecture me about discipline. Mom never said anything to him. She would just sit there and agree with whatever he said. Things got really weird when Nathan started talking about how I needed to man up and take responsibility. He said I was using Mom's grief as an excuse to slack off. He told Mom that she was babying me too much. I tried to tell Mom that Nathan was overstepping but she said he was just trying to help. She said I needed a male figure in my life now that Dad was gone. I wanted to tell her that I didn't need anyone to replace Dad, especially not his junkie brother, but I kept quiet because I didn't want to upset her. Things took a turn for the worse 3 months ago when I caught them kissing in the kitchen. I had gone down for water late at night and saw them. I was disgusted. It hadn't even been 6 months since Dad died and Mom was already with his brother. I confronted them right there. I asked Mom how she could do this to Dad's memory. Nathan tried to calm me down but I was too angry. I called him a snake who was taking advantage of Mom's vulnerability. Mom got really angry and said I was being unreasonable. She said Nathan made her happy and that Dad would want her to be happy. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her Dad would roll in his grave if he knew she was with his drug addict brother. Nathan moved in with us 2 months ago. He took over Dad's side of the bed, started wearing Dad's clothes, and even began using Dad's study. The study was Dad's special place. He kept all his important documents there and would spend hours there on weekends working on his projects. Nathan just walked in and took it over like he owned it. He moved Dad's things to the garage saying we needed to stop living in the past. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. Every time I tried to talk to Mom about how wrong this was, she would shut me down saying I was being difficult and that I needed to accept that she had moved on. Last week, Mom told me she was pregnant. I lost it completely. I told her she was disrespecting Dad's memory and that Nathan was just using her. I told her Nathan probably just wanted the house and her money. This made Nathan really angry. He got in my face and started yelling about how I was a spoiled brat who couldn't see his mother happy. He told Mom that I was trying to come between them because I was jealous. He said I couldn't handle that Mom was happy with someone else. Mom just stood there crying and believed everything he said. They told me to leave the house. They said I was old enough to live on my own and that they needed space for their new family. I had nowhere to go. All my friends are away at college and I don't have any close relatives nearby. I packed some clothes and left. I've been staying at a cheap motel for the past 2 days, using the money I had saved for my summer job. Yesterday, I remembered Uncle Robert, Dad's elder brother. He lives in the next state and we haven't talked much since Dad's death, but I was desperate. When I called and told him what happened, he was furious. He told me something that changed everything. I can't believe what I'm about to do, but I don't have a choice anymore. Update 1. It's been a week since my last post, and I can't believe how much has changed. When I called Uncle Robert that day from the motel, I was just hoping he might let me crash at his place for a few days. I never expected him to turn my whole situation around. After hearing what happened, he told me that before Dad died, he had transferred the house to my name. Uncle Robert said Dad never trusted Nathan and had always worried that if anything happened to him, Nathan might try to take advantage of Mom and get his hands on our property. Dad had apparently told Robert about this but made him promise not to tell anyone unless absolutely necessary. Uncle Robert took the first flight out and reached my motel the next morning. He looked exactly like I remembered him from Dad's funeral, tall and serious, just like Dad. The first thing he did was hug me and tell me how sorry he was for not checking on us more often. He said he should have known Nathan would try something like this. Over breakfast, Uncle Robert told me more about why Dad had transferred the house to my name. Apparently, Nathan had tried to convince Dad to sell the house 5 years ago, claiming he needed money for a business venture. Dad had refused, and that was the last time they spoke. Uncle Robert said Dad never told Mom about this because he didn't want her to worry. After that incident, Dad had quietly transferred the house to my name with a clause that if anything happened to him before I turned 18, Uncle Robert would be my legal guardian regarding property matters. The papers were in Dad's study, the same study Nathan had taken over. Uncle Robert was sure Nathan hadn't found them because Dad had a special hiding place, a false bottom in his desk drawer that he had built himself. Only Robert knew about it because he had helped Dad install it. We went to the house when we knew Nathan would be at work. Mom opened the door and was shocked to see Uncle Robert. She looked different, tired, and older somehow. She tried to stop us from going in, saying we should wait for Nathan to come home, but Uncle Robert didn't listen. He walked straight to Dad's study with me following behind. The study was completely different from how Dad had kept it. Nathan had removed all of Dad's certificates from the walls and replaced them with his own stuff. Dad's books were packed in boxes in the corner. The room smelled of cigarettes, which Dad had always hated. Uncle Robert went straight to Dad's desk and within minutes found the false bottom. The papers were exactly where Dad had left them. Mom stood in the doorway watching us. When Uncle Robert showed her the papers, she started crying. She kept saying she had no idea about any of this. Uncle Robert didn't say anything to her, he just called his lawyer friend who lived nearby and asked him to come over immediately. The lawyer confirmed what Uncle Robert had said, the house legally belonged to me. He explained that the transfer had been done properly with all the necessary paperwork. Nathan had no claim on the property whatsoever. While we were discussing this, Nathan came home early. The moment he saw Uncle Robert's car outside, he knew something was wrong. Nathan tried to act cool at first, greeting Uncle Robert like they were old friends. But when he saw the papers on the table, his whole demeanor changed. He started yelling, calling it a conspiracy against him. He threw Dad's desk lamp across the room and started cursing at everyone. He called Mom stupid for not knowing about the house transfer, called me an ungrateful brat, and told Uncle Robert to mind his own business. The most shocking part was how he turned on Mom. All his sweet talk disappeared in seconds. He called her worthless and said she was just like Dad, always looking down on him. Mom just stood there crying, finally seeing his true nature. He even pushed her when she tried to calm him down, which made Uncle Robert step between them. Nathan stormed upstairs and started packing his things. Mom followed him, begging him to stay and talk things out. She said they could figure something out, that she still loved him. It was painful to watch. He just ignored her and kept packing. Before leaving, he looked at me and said, "You think you've won? Just wait and see what happens to your precious mommy now." Uncle Robert had to physically stop me from going after him when he said that. After Nathan left, Mom locked herself in her room and wouldn't come out. Uncle Robert stayed with us and helped me understand everything about the house and the legal stuff. He told me that Dad had also set up a trust fund for me that would mature when I turned 21. It wasn't a huge amount, but enough to help me finish college. Nathan had no idea about any of this, which explained why he had been trying to get his hands on the house. That night, I heard Mom crying in her room. Part of me wanted to go comfort her, but I couldn't. Her choice to believe Nathan over her own son, her willingness to kick me out for him, it all hurt too much. Uncle Robert said I should give her time to process everything. He's staying with us for a few more days to make sure Nathan doesn't try anything else. I know this isn't over yet. Nathan isn't the type to just walk away, especially now that he knows about the trust fund. But at least I have my home back, and more importantly, I know Dad was looking out for me even after he was gone. Update 2. It's been a month since Nathan left, and everything that's happened since then has shown us just how much we didn't know about him. The biggest shock came 2 weeks ago when Mom lost the baby due to stress. She hadn't been eating properly since Nathan left and had been having panic attacks. The doctor said the pregnancy was already high risk due to Mom's age and stress levels. After losing the baby, Mom finally agreed to see a counselor. That's when things started coming out. She told the counselor how Nathan had slowly isolated her from everyone. He would tell her that people were judging her for moving on too quickly, that only he understood her pain. He convinced her that I was trying to control her life and that she deserved to be happy. Looking back, she said she could see how he manipulated her, but at the time, she was too caught up in her grief to notice. The worst part came when we started going through Dad's things in the study. Mom noticed that a lot of stuff was missing. Dad's expensive watch collection, which he had built over 20 years, was gone. His vintage baseball card collection, which he used to say would help pay for my college, had disappeared. Even Mom's jewelry, which she had put in Dad's study for safekeeping, was nowhere to be found. At first, we thought Nathan might have moved things around, but then Mom remembered seeing him carrying boxes to his car late at night, saying he was taking old papers to be recycled. Uncle Robert was furious when he heard about this. He hired a private investigator to look into Nathan's background. What the investigator found was shocking. Nathan hadn't been clean for 5 years like he claimed. He was still heavily involved in gambling and had huge debts at several casinos. He had been planning this whole thing, waiting for the right moment to come back into our lives. The investigator found out that Nathan had been watching our house for weeks before he showed up, learning our routines. But the most disturbing thing was that this wasn't the first time Nathan had done something like this. The investigator found 3 police complaints against him in different states. All from widows who said he had gained their trust, moved in with them, and then stolen their valuables. He would always leave before the police could catch him. One woman lost her life savings to him. Another said he had convinced her to sign over her car to him, claiming he needed it for work, and then sold it. Mom broke down when she heard all this. She couldn't believe she had fallen for his lies and chose him over me. She said she kept justifying his behavior because he reminded her of Dad sometimes, the way he would fix things around the house, how he knew all these stories about Dad's childhood. But now she realized he had used those memories to manipulate her. The investigator also found out that Nathan had tried to forge Dad's signature on some documents related to the house. He found half-finished practice sheets in Nathan's old apartment where he had been trying to copy Dad's signature. If we hadn't found those property papers when we did, he might have tried to claim the house was actually his. Uncle Robert took all this information to the police, but they said that since Nathan had left the state and Mom had willingly let him stay here, there wasn't much they could do. The best they could do was file a report about the stolen items, but without proof that Nathan took them, it would be hard to press charges. Yesterday, we got a call from one of Dad's old friends who owns a pawn shop in the next town. He said Nathan had tried to sell him Dad's Rolex last week. When the friend recognized the watch and started asking questions, Nathan ran out. At least now we know where he's been selling Dad's things. Mom spends most of her time going through old photos now. She found pictures of Dad and Nathan from when they were kids. She said she can see the signs even in those old photos, how Nathan was always taking Dad's things, always trying to compete with him. She blames herself for not seeing through his act, for letting him take advantage of her grief. I'm still angry about everything, but seeing Mom like this, I know she's punishing herself more than anyone else could. The house feels empty now. Even though Nathan was only here for a few months, he managed to destroy so much. It's not just the stolen things, it's the trust, the memories, everything he tainted with his presence. Update 3. It's been 3 months since everything happened, and I felt I should give a final update. Life has changed a lot since Nathan left. Mom and I are both living in the house, but it's like we're strangers sharing a space. She stays in her room most of the time, and I stay in mine. We only see each other during meals, and even then, we barely talk. Sometimes I hear her crying at night, but I don't know how to comfort her anymore. The trust between us is broken. Uncle Robert has been a huge help through all of this. He checks on us every week and helped me enroll in the local community college. I didn't want to go away for college anymore, not because I don't trust Mom, but because this house is all I have left of Dad now. The community college is just a 20-minute drive, so I can live at home and study. We found out more about Nathan's whereabouts through the grapevine. He's living 2 states over with some woman he met at a casino. Apparently, he told her he's a successful businessman whose family turned against him out of jealousy. The same old story. He tried calling Mom several times from different numbers, but she's blocked them all. Once, he left a voicemail saying he forgave her for choosing me over him and that he would take her back if she left everything to come live with him. Mom deleted the message and cried for hours. Last week, another pawn shop owner called us. He had Dad's baseball card collection. The owner said Nathan had sold it to him for a fraction of its worth. Uncle Robert went and bought it back. When he gave it to me, I broke down. These cards were something Dad and I collected together every weekend. Each card had a memory attached to it. Nathan had no right to touch them, let alone sell them. Mom tried to talk to me about everything last night. She said she was sorry for choosing Nathan over me, for not seeing what he really was, for forgetting about Dad so quickly. She said grief had made her blind and stupid. I listened to her, but I couldn't say it was okay because it wasn't. She kicked her own son out for a man who was just using her. That's not something you can just forgive and forget. The counselor Mom's seeing says it will take time for both of us to heal. She says we both need to acknowledge our pain and anger before we can move forward. But honestly, I don't know if things will ever be the same between us. Every time I look at Mom, I remember how easily she believed Nathan's lies about me being jealous and controlling. Uncle Robert says I should try to forgive her, that she was vulnerable and Nathan took advantage of that. Maybe he's right, but I'm not there yet. For now, we're just 2 people living in the same house, each dealing with our pain in our own way. Mom spends her time looking at old photos and crying. I focus on college and work. Sometimes I find myself sitting in Dad's study, looking at his things that we managed to get back, and wondering what he would think of all this. Would he be disappointed in Mom? Would he understand my anger? Would he tell me to forgive and move on? I'll never know. All I know is that I'm grateful he had the foresight to protect me by putting the house in my name. It's like he knew something like this might happen. This will be my last update. There's nothing more to tell. Nathan is gone, hopefully for good. Mom and I are trying to live with the choices we made. Maybe time will heal things between us, maybe it won't. For now, we're just taking it one day at a time, living with the ghost of what our family used to be.